Hello and welcome to the Journeys with PDA Coffee Chat podcast, where we seek community connection and co-regulation while chatting about all things PDA. Hi everybody, this is Heather. Before we get started on our next episode of this podcast, I just wanted to give everyone a head up. In this episode, it's going to include a discussion about applied behavior analysis, or ABA, within the autism community. And we recognize the controversy surrounding this topic, and we encourage that you listen with care and please take care of your nervous system. Our goal at Journeys with PDA is to promote understanding and not to endorse any specific approach. Also, Journeys with PDA does not endorse any specific therapy. We believe it is about the connections a therapist builds with a PDAer and not the therapy itself. Every family must do what they feel is best for their unique situation. Hello, and welcome to Journeys with PDA Coffee Chat podcast. I'm Heather.
And I'm Kerissa, and today we have a special guest with us today, Rachel. Rachel, we would love you to introduce yourself, tell us about you, and then, of course, let us know your connection to PDA.
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for having me on. My name is Rachel. I am a parent to an autistic young adult. He was diagnosed when he was 18 months old, and that kind of started my journey in autism, trying to learn all that I could to best support my son, is kind of how everything started. I'm a military spouse. My husband served in the Navy for 25 years, and he was deployed a lot, and I kind of had no choice but to dive in and figure it all out. I didn't live by any family, and I really just needed to find out what was the best supports for my son so that I can be the best mom I could be, and then also make sure that I had him in the right schools with the right teachers, and you name it, the whole 9 yards. His diagnosis took me on a journey professionally outside of being a parent, which included I was going to be a project manager initially. And when I started to find out about speech therapy, and my son did participate in ABA therapy, I was like, I need to know what all these people are doing so that I can do it at home as well, to kind of have that collaboration across so that I could best support him when he wasn't at school or in his therapies. And that's how I became a BCBA. I went back to school. My master's is in psychology. And then I was a concentration in applied behavior analysis. I started just as a behavior technician in a private school. I've worked in a clinic setting. I've been in the field for over 12 years. My mission has been, how do I best support families that are going through their own journey, regardless of what that looks like for them? ABA isn't for everybody. So if not, how do I help them navigate maybe those other steps? What other resources are locally or even nationally? What other therapies are out there? There's different funding sources depending on what state you're in. What is available to our families today? Things change so much, and there's been so much change in all of the fields over the last 10, 15 years, including ABA. And, for me, my passion is giving back to the autism community.
So that there's so many similarities, I feel like, happening here with us. It's like we're meant to be. First and foremost, we are all mothers of autistic children who had to learn as much as possible to be able to support and advocate for our children. And so that's how I got here. That's why I do what I do. And so it's always incredible to get to meet these other parents who were like, I'm actually going to learn this stuff for myself and be that expert on my child. Also, I'll let Heather share some of the similarities between you guys, because there's some really fun things that you guys have in common.
Yeah, I'm also a military spouse. Yeah, traveling.
That's exciting.
Oh yeah, yes, I'm sure you and I could tell a lot of stories, right?
Sure.
Like waiting, 2 months to get household goods arriving from overseas, and you have a, under 1-year-old child with none of their baby stuff. So yeah,
Yes.
military life is fun, isn't it?
Yes.
Most certainly
Yes.
is.
Yes. He's retired now, so I'm no longer in that life, but it was
Yeah.
for a long time.
Yeah, my husband is as well. Yep, he is
Okay.
as well. Yep.
Heather also navigated deployments and had to kind of learn
Just
all of
figure it all out. Yeah.
learn
And
all
I
of
do
the
have a
basics.
background of, I'm a former teacher, former special education teacher. So it was more about, okay, how do I navigate the system with a toddler versus how do I just facilitate in a system with older elementary age students?
Yes, absolutely. It's when you're kind of thrown in that situation, as you know, if you're in a location that maybe you weren't born or raised or ever visited, and you have to start fresh and you have to learn all that you can. And sometimes you are faced with disappointments. Sometimes you're just faced with so much frustration. And there's so many nights that, you cry and you're just like, I just want to help my child. Somebody please help me. And I think that can resonate with so many parents out there and caregivers that take care of, neurodivergent or autistic children. And the bottom line is that we're going to do whatever we need to do for our babies. And, we are strong and we're resilient and we're advocates, and we will fiercely advocate for our children and what we feel is best for our families. And I'm a huge advocate for that as well, for people talking in with me as a BCBA. If they have things that they want to talk to me about or what they're comfortable with and what they're not, please advocate. Let me know what works for you. What is your parenting style? What are you comfortable with? What are you not? What does that look like for you and your family? The more you can advocate for your child, or even better, when the child can learn to advocate for themselves, and have them be part of decision making and processes, and what type of supports or education that they're having, I think is super important.
So, Rachel, tell us what you're currently doing and your current setting that you're working in.
Sure. So I currently work at a private school in Mesa, Arizona, and we work with kiddos from preschool all the way through high school, and they are neurodivergent or autistic, and they come with such amazing skills, and they're also unique and they're also different. Our school has special educational teachers. We have behavior therapists in every classroom to provide any supports. And then myself as a BCBA, as the director of that, we go in and we do a lot of collaboration with the families and the teacher and the staff and the student, depending on, their modes of communication or where they're comfortable at and their age. And we include everybody on their team. And we focus and we blend both academics and behavior support for all of our students here. We're not tied to medical billing here. We have freedom to, if we want to put in any type of program, it doesn't have to be considered medical necessity to do so. We want to celebrate the wins and all the amazing things that our students do. We only jump in where it's needed, where they need to be as successful as that looks like. And that could mean many different things. Success to one parent and one student might be very different from the next. And so everything is very individualized. They might just have social goals that we focus on. They might be our speaker at our, showcase. And, they might have these incredible skills with certain things, but they might need just a little bit of help in others. And that's where someone like myself jumps in with our students.
So tell us a little bit about your experience with PDA. How did you find it, and kind of how has it impacted the school that you work with and your job?
Sure, that's a great question. I am all about trying to research best practices. And I don't just go to only one website. I have to do continuing education units, and one of the CEU programs I use is the Do Better Collective. And they really focus a lot on trauma-informed ABA. They focus a lot on neuroaffirming, compassionate ABA, you name it. I personally struggled with some of the heavy compliance-based ABA with my son when he was going through it. And I learned that I needed to speak up for him in those moments and see how else can we maybe do that differently. And I've always just kind of had that approach with, it's not my way or the highway. It's how can we work together? Some things might be out of my scope. Some things may not be in my repertoire of knowledge or experience. That's okay. Let me talk to those that do know something about that. Let me get training in it. Let me see how can I become competent in those areas so that I can support them. I think that's huge. As far as PDA goes, I'm going to be completely just open about it. The first time I heard PDA was roughly 2 years ago. There was a coworker who had mentioned she thought that her daughter had PDA. And I was like, I have never heard of that before. What is it? Just more so out of curiosity, because of course, if it's something new or something different, I want to learn all about it. So I just started asking questions like, oh, okay, what is this? And then I started to dig into, okay, like what resources are out there. There's more and more and more that is coming out each and every day. And, I just try to sink my claws into everything I could to be like, okay, I want to learn, I want to learn, I want to learn. And that is how I found Journeys with PDA. And I was a huge, we have got to go to your conference, which we attended. Some members here at Polaris attended last October. And we come from the educating background. We had teachers, parents, and then BCBA. And we wanted to learn. We wanted to know all the things. We wanted to listen. We wanted to hear what are barriers, what experiences has people that live maybe with PDA every day, what challenges, do you have? Like I said, everyone's unique and everyone is going to face something different. But we came with open ears, an open mind, and wanting to learn. And I can't tell you how amazing that whole experience was. We learned about the regulated classroom, which is recommended to us. I have the declarative language handbook. I've got all the books. I was like, I've got to have everything so that I can read up on all of this. What we did is we came back to Polaris and we had an in-service with our staff. And we delivered on the information that we learned with what we could. We actually have multiple children here at our campus that their parents have identified them as having PDA. And we took just the little knowledge that we were able to gain there, which is just the tip of the iceberg. And we were like, okay, well, how can we apply this? This makes so much sense. There were so many things that as we were participating and listening to everyone, and we're like, wow, we could apply this tomorrow. This is a strategy. It's just good teaching. There were so many things that just made so much great sense. well, I take data on just about everything. And I was like, okay, let's try these different strategies. It's a different approach. And I'm like, oh man, we saw so much great progress with our kiddos. And until this year, this was the first time I actually saw a diagnostic report from a child's diagnosing, physician that added a section under their autism diagnosis that says with PDA characteristics. It was the very first time I have personally, in my time in this field, actually saw that in the diagnostic report itself. Our kids here are thriving. We implement the regulated classroom across campus. So our teachers are doing that. And then when myself and our other BCBA are working on supporting the child with PDA strategies, the parents are heavily involved in those discussions, and we want to make sure that it's successful. So I was taking data so that I could see if what we were doing was right or effective. And so we saw so many great things with that. And now we're starting our new school year at the end of July, and because we're on summer break right now, and we have an additional 5 students coming in with the PDA profile. Wow. And I feel confident that we can help them navigate. We're not experts by any means, but boy, are we trying. And it's just, we're searching for the level 3 PDA certification. We want to learn all of it. We love all the information that we've already gotten, and it's important when you start to speak about, yes, we're an ABA school, but a lot of ABA strategies are ineffective with someone with the PDA profile. And you don't just give up on that child because your strategy doesn't work. You seek answers. You seek what other things can we do to help this child and family, for that matter.
So tell us first a little bit about what is the regulated classroom, because
sure.
Not everybody listening might know much about that, and so I think that would be interesting to kind of hear you explain what is that? What does that look like? What does that
sure.
mean in the school setting?
Absolutely. So the regulated classroom was created by Emily Reed Daniels, and it was a curriculum that was initially created for teachers. And the focus is on regulation and co-regulation. And there was a huge emphasis on educators learning how to regulate themselves before they can co-regulate. And there's 4 main core practices that they do, and that's the connectors, activators, settlers, and affirmations. And it made so much sense to me when I was going through this curriculum. I'm like, of course, when you talk about transitions for even myself can be hard sometimes, right? You can't expect a child to go from super high energy, running around at recess, to coming back into the classroom and going right into math, for example. So maybe you have a settler activity, which is one of the core practices where the teacher kind of facilitates, okay, everybody's coming back in, we're going to do a calming activity first. We're going to do other things, and then we will break out into our groups and start our next section. Or if maybe the kids are really tired or they're hungry or something like that, they might do an activator activity to get them up and moving, get those wiggles out, make sure their sensory needs are being met. Things like that. And affirmations, I think, is huge. There's so much talk when you talk about behavior, just in general, about maybe things that are hard or really challenging or more looked at in a negative way, like that's a bad behavior or not a good behavior. There needs to be just as much emphasis on all the great things that our kids are doing and ourselves. We need to be kind to ourselves and give ourselves grace. But affirmations are huge. Positive self-talk, positive self-image, treating others kindly. How do we speak to each other? Taking all of those things into account is super, super huge. And connectors, we do that in ABA all the time. We call it pairing. It's just called something a little different. You know, we love to connect with our kids. We want to know what their interests are. We want to get the kiddos with connectors in the classroom, getting to learn their peers as well, not just connecting with us, the adults, but how can we get them to connect with their friends? It might be an activity of guessing someone's favorite animal or something like that. And it's a way to build connections and build rapport. Mm-hmm.
I just to go back to the retreat, I remember exactly where the four of you sat. Um, and I mean, what comes to the front of my mind is just, there was just furious writing almost,
You should see my notebook. I still
almost
have
the
it.
entire time. You know, it's like I saw the tops of heads and furious writing. Um, and to maybe go back um, to last October, which is when we had the retreat, and you're sitting in there, and I want to know what it was like for you personally to hear about the PDA perspective
Mm-hmm.
and what those things are that have to be so drastically different in order to accommodate and support a PDAer. How did that personally make you feel? How did that professionally make you feel?
Yeah, that's a really great question. To be honest, I was kind of scared to come. I'm just being honest. I was walking into a space that I personally have never been in before, and I tried to use my experiences that I dealt with when I learned about my son's diagnosis. Going in with that open mind, I didn't know how people would feel if they knew a BCBA was present because of, you know, ABA can be really great when it's done correctly and it's done by the right people, right? And so, but it's not for everybody. And I can appreciate that and I understand that. But I was afraid. I was a little nervous. How was everyone going to even just respond to the fact that maybe a BCBA was there? And I don't know how that would make other people feel. So I really wanted to make sure that I came in with people knowing like I'm here to learn. Thank you so much for having us there because we really wanted to be there. And that was just kind of that. But there were some things that are so different that we learned. And that was part of all of the writing because I wanted to really, really just process it all. The biggest difference is allowing that flexibility, um, disguising demands, um, coming up with that declarative language, um, just being, I think for me, I come from a play-based ABA background.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very familiar with really working on more child-led, natural learning environment teaching, really just rolling with the child and their interests and using the natural environment where it's not such a contrived sit at a table and run programs. Like if someone wants to be an alligator cruising through the jungle, guess what? I'll be on the carpet. I'm going to be the alligator and we're going to have fun making animal sounds while we do it, right? And so I'm very familiar with that type of learning and teaching. But then adding the other components that we learned about in ABA, when you say something, the expectation is they do something and then they get something, right? And so you have to be open to saying in your mind, it's okay if when I say these things, it doesn't have to happen right now. It doesn't mean I go in and physically prompt them because they didn't respond right now. And there's a lot of different ABA interventions and procedures that normally you might go in a little bit quicker with some kind of level of a prompt to kind of to teach that skill. Not everything needs to be a data point. not everything needs that. Not everything has to be, I said, do this, you're going to do it. It doesn't, it's just doesn't need to be that way. And there's some people that agree and disagree with that. And I think that the flexibility piece has been one of the biggest game changers here on our campus with our kiddos. That and the declarative language and the strewing. I never heard of strewing the way that I heard at the retreat. And we actually have tables like in the classroom where we will put things out there so that when they're ready, they can totally go there, and great if they do. And it's okay if they don't. And letting go of some of that control, I don't know if that's the right word, but when you're trying to run a data point, there is this, okay, you're going to present the discriminative stimuli, the SD, the instruction, you're going to do these things. But the PDA approach, we were just like, okay, we have 5 more minutes. When you're ready, come join circle. When you're ready, we're going to hop on over here. So they know what the expectation is, but they can come when they are ready, or if it's time to clean up. We found great success with that, without them feeling that they have to do it right now. Like, it's not something that has to be done immediately. They know what the expectations are. They know the visuals that are in the classroom. So we've also been able to remove a lot of the vocal demands out. And we might just refer to a picture. We have even used music as a way to signal that a change is coming or is about to come, or letting them know that this transition is taking place. There's some, things that are very similar too. We want to do those connectors and that pairing. We want to build rapport. We want the children to learn felt safety. We want them to know that there is someone there. We genuinely care about them. And if they're having a harder time, we're there to help them through it. And we're not there to judge. We're not there to make them feel any type of way other than, I'm loved and I'm supported here, and it's okay that I needed more time, even though maybe my friends have already gone. We have the staff here that understands that we can do things on a different timetable. Even though, we do many transitions throughout the day here. There's lesson plans, the whole 9 yards. That's what we do. It's a school, but we've been able to incorporate a lot of that flexibility. And I think that really is the one that stands out, that's helped us be pretty successful here.
Well, I think you're incredibly brave for
Yeah.
stepping into this space and being vulnerable to just learn.
Yes.
So, we greatly appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah, I know it's very different, and I know the approaches are different, and I think the more that a team can come together and have a collaborative approach, the better success it's going to be for all. And the child, at the end of the day, is who we all do this for. And how are we helping that child learn different tools and strategies to help themselves as they continue on their journey, as they grow into an adult one day, maybe the workforce one day, whatever that looks like for that individual. Do they have the tools to be able to continue to advocate for what they need?
What was like that internal experience for you when you're like sitting down with this group of people that you don't know? You're learning about something that you know very little about, and you're kind of faced with like, wow, this is like completely different than like anything I've come across, because we are all kind of blown away when you get into PDA, and there's this always the idea of, so I just let my kids do whatever they want.
Yeah.
So there's always that that's what I think when you hear about PDA, especially like how to support PDA, that's kind of that first thought that we all have. And once you kind of dig in, obviously that isn't it. But what kind of was that experience for you
Mm-hmm.
because of all of your education and your training?
Yeah, I did struggle. Full transparency here. I was like, the four functions of behavior are, attention, avoidance, escape, and I just went through the whole thing in my mind, and I was like, what do you mean? You just, the whole thing is you say this, you do this, you get this, and
Mm-hmm.
that's escape behavior. And this is what our science teaches us. And yes, for an autistic individual, again, using the proper techniques and the approach to ABA and the person to all those things are super important to take into consideration. But when you have a PDA-er in front of you, that isn't going to fly at all. And you have to be, there was a battle in my mind of how do I let go? How do I let go of that? This is escape behavior by this textbook definition, this function of behavior after my functional behavior assessment was completed. This is falling into that category. How do I let go of the interventions that typically come with teaching replacement behaviors to decrease escape, task avoidant type behavior? It was a mind shift. It was a wow moment. Honestly, it was okay. At one point, I was like, I don't know what to do. I was like, I don't know what to do. Every part of my being up to that point was you go into maybe some type of escape extinction type of process, right? Like that's what you're taught, and there's all these really great ABA interventions as well, but that's not effective at all when you're dealing with, at least my experience with the children that I was able to serve here, that doesn't go over very well. And I want to do everything I can to not ever cause crisis level behavior. And for what good is it to have a child just totally get so dysregulated, about the situation that they are they're in fight or flight and they're just shutting down. And that's not the experience that we want. And how do you reach them? I had to be able to let go of one way of teaching it and being like, it's okay. Not everything needs to be ABA. And not every child needs ABA, and that's okay. There are other strategies. There are other ways. So when I learned those other strategies, what I was writing down is I had already identified kiddos that I thought might also have it. And I was like, oh, this would be so great for this child. And this would be so great for that child. And oh, what a cool different approach that I didn't even think about. And the more I thought about it and I sat there and I was like, okay, I got to let go. I got to let go of the ABA approach. And once I was able to get over that, it opened the door for me to say, hey, they don't need that. This is what they need. This is what they need. This is individualized to them, and that's okay. And we're going to work with them and the family. And then I thought, this is actually really good teaching. I was like, it doesn't always have to be this, it's my way or the highway. It doesn't always have to be like that. And where's that autonomy? Where can we promote that? Where can we increase that? Where can we be flexible? This is a huge shift for a lot of people in my field, and maybe also in the educational field. A lot of times you sit in a class and you are given a lesson and things are kind of delivered in that way, but like, does it have to be that way? Can you do things backward? Can it be out of order? Where can they choose? Where's their choice? There's so many great things. At the end of the day, for me, it's all about, that also helps increase their self-advocacy. and it helps them feel heard, and it gives them a place to be like, they are hearing me. They heard me. It's not just teacher says this, do this, or BCBA or whoever says this, do this. It's okay, we want to honor that autonomy in every place we can. Our preschool teacher, she's now going to be the director of our early learning center. She was at the retreat. And her and I, we kept looking back at each other. We were like, this is so great. We're trying this first day back. And we did. And it was very successful. It was very successful. And you know what I kind of felt too? I kind of felt like our kiddos looked at us in a different way as well. That connectivity and that pairing, we really fostered a much better relationship too. And I think that felt really good. So.
What was it like to come back to the school and all the other like coworkers and staff, and
Yes.
to be like, all right guys, like listen up, like, what was that like, and was it challenging for some of the other I guess staff to be
Yes.
like, you want us to what?
It was. We came back and we were like, we have got to get this information across our campus. It took us a while to process everything, and we were just so eager to get this going. We just were so excited about it. And so the four of us that went to the retreat, we actually put together a training for our staff just to give them information, and just our experience, that we had. And I will say we're a pretty small campus right now. So there's only about 7 teachers. And so we're pretty small. And the reactions that we got, I thought for the most part were really good. But then you could see those same thing that I felt when I first heard everything. I could see that almost spinning in their minds of, well, how am I supposed to, so when it's time to go to STEM, what's this transition going to look like? You could tell that they were starting to process and try to figure out the way that they have always taught. How is that going to change? And so they were going through that themselves. I've also had the opportunity to collaborate with other BCBAs, and that was more challenging than dealing with.
Imagine.
That was absolutely more challenging. But at the end of the day, we have to do what's right for our kiddos. And the PDA, we've called it the PDA strategy. That's just, I don't know if that even comes close to encompassing like what that means, at least here at Polaris and with our staff and with our kids. And when we're telling a new family that's coming in, that might be a new student here, we do ABA naturally across our campus. So there's priming, there's positive reinforcement, there's, some first next that happen, things like that traditionally just across. But maybe those kiddos don't have goals that are more ABA. They have goals that are written in a way where it includes with flexibility, with certain things. So their goals are written so that when the staff is working with them, we can still collect data on it to see if that approach is even effective or not for that student. We even have a couple students where it's a mix of both, and it's perfect for that kiddo, and they're thriving, and that's great. And so, I think for most people, there's so much to learn about PDA. There's so much I still need to learn and want to learn, and I want to grow. with this knowledge so that I can best support the next set of educators, the next set of BCBAs, the next set of parents that might be told one day, from whether it's their doctor or it's their own intuition that this is, that they've identified their child as, having PDA. I want them to know that it's going to be okay, first and foremost. And what works for one may not be what works for the next. And that's why it's so important to ask questions and determine for yourself and for your family if this is the right thing that you want to do, kind of moving forward, especially in the educational field. At least here in Arizona, we're school choice here. And so if you want to send your child to public school, you can. If you want to send them to private, you can. If you want to go to a charter school, you can. If you want to homeschool, you absolutely can. Our parents have lots of options as far as what is the best fit for them and what their child is needing.
I think just keeping in mind how unique every single child is, and and like you said, it can be a mixture of everything, but it's more about just what does that individual child need, and that seems like that's the piece, that's the key to PDA, and also valuing them as people who are experiencing life and they're trying to learn, and making sure that they're heard and that their opinion is valued. And I feel like this is what Heather and I are, we're always talking about this. So it's so exciting to hear somebody else kind of also value those same things.
Yeah, absolutely. Our kids here are pretty awesome at our school, and I can't tell you how much I miss a lot of them because we're on break right now. We do have a summer camp, which is, there's lessons and stuff there, but it is child-led in a lot of ways, and it gives them some consistency with their schedules and things like that over the break. And I am so excited for all the new students that are also coming in. Some of them, their parents have identified them as having, PDA characteristics. And, it's exciting that, parents want to come here and ask those questions about how would you handle maybe XYZ, or what does that look like in your classroom when these things happen, so that we can tell them exactly what it is we do so that they can determine if maybe we're the right fit for them. And we hope that we are, of course. We're about to have all our staff come back. We're going to do onboarding. We have some new staff, and PDA and the regulated classroom are one of our ongoing refresher trainings that we will continue to do so that everyone's on the same page. I feel like they're by blending therapy with academics, there's already a huge learning curve when it comes to that alone, just that alone. Like, maybe we're all doing similar things, but we're not speaking the same language. So as educators, how do we start speaking the same language so that we can all be doing the same type of process, the same type of interventions, how we talk to our kids, how do we handle challenging behaviors when they do arise, what does that look like? Blending the language of both the educational world and the behavioral world together is still a work in progress, but I think we did a pretty good job our first year.
So knowing that, we need to be regulated ourselves before we can co-regulate with someone else, mainly a student there at your school, how do you regulate yourself? Um, you talked about you used the regulated classroom, and I I wish I had had those tools in my toolbox when I was teaching. Um, but I'm just curious, how do you go about regulating yourself before going into a situation where you're going to need to co-regulate with somebody?
Sure. So I ran a marathon back in February.
A
I do a,
metaphorical one or a real
no,
one?
I ran a real
Oh
one.
my goodness.
I know I needed a way to like regulate myself, and I had so much going on in my personal life and, in my profession and at school. And I do have some anxiety. And before I give big presentations, I'll go run 10 miles the day before just to get that out of my system because that's just how I am. Um, but when I'm here on campus, right now I'm in my office. It's kind of in the front of the school where the classrooms and everything are kind of, past the lobby type of setup,
Hmm.
and which is great. But I like to be in the hallways. I'm already there. I'm already hearing if I've learned our kiddos enough to know what are precursors, what the triggers are. I can tell by their laugh, their cry, their vocal stems, you name it, whatever it might be. I was able to pick up on when maybe things were going, maybe they were starting to just get dysregulated a little bit. So I wasn't very far away. So we focus a lot, and I am a huge advocate for focusing on preventative and antecedent strategies to be able to have in place ahead of any type of challenging situation for our students. Meaning, okay, what were their setting events? Did they sleep well the night before? Did they come in late today? Do they have what they need for today? Um, are they not feeling well? Do their medication, the whole thing. Like, I want to know how everyone's doing so that when it does start to go, I get with my team. I go into the classrooms, I pair with them, I connect with them, and I start to gauge how are they responding with me so I can gauge what level of dysregulation they might be feeling. And so I'm already going in with a calm, fresh demeanor, and they're being met with that. So if my staff around maybe are starting to feel also dysregulated, I may say, I got it, and let them go take a walk or go take a break. And then my job at that moment is to prevent further uh, escalation
Hmm.
and make sure that I'm getting this child's needs met. And a lot of times that could be just hanging out with them for a little bit, pairing, helping them change the subject, maybe some redirection, talk about their favorite thing and just kick back and hang out for a little bit. Maybe it's they want to go take a walk and we'll go do an activity such as that. And when they're ready, I help kind of integrate them back into the classroom.
I was
Um,
going to ask you if you
yeah.
tag teamed with the
Yes.
adults in your, if you
Yes.
had that
Yes.
type of
Yes.
support for each other
Yes.
in the
We
in the
do.
school.
Yeah, so we use walkie-talkies. So in the event, maybe I am on one side of the campus and maybe something is starting to escalate a little bit on the other side, so I'm not readily available to be able to come in. We do codes over a walkie that lets me know, okay, I should probably go check in, or someone else will go check in. Um, if teachers need breaks, if the supporting staff need breaks, if I need a break, I'll go for a walk.
Hmm.
I'll go eat my lunch in my car if that's what I need. I also listen to heavy metal. And a lot of people, my nickname here at campus is Mary Poppins. Um, and they're very surprised to hear that that is actually calming for me to listen to some heavy metal type music. So sometimes I'll come put my headphones on and just lower the lights. All our lights dim across the whole campus. So we're able to put the lights up or dim them down as much as we need to kind of whatever we need in that moment. So that's how I regulate myself anyway here at campus.
I think just the idea of being able to take a break
Yes.
as a teacher, as like an administrator, um, it seems like such a simple concept, but yet so incredibly powerful. And then
Yes.
extending that to the kids, like
Yes,
yeah,
of course.
maybe you didn't sleep good, and so maybe you do just need to walk outside for a minute, or um, you know, maybe the teacher is maybe she didn't sleep good, and
It happens. We're human.
right,
Yeah.
and maybe that teacher just needs a little break to calm themselves. So to have an environment where that is allowed or encouraged is
Or isn't punitive.
Correct. Oh,
I've
no.
been in, and I don't know if, how many people who maybe aren't familiar with actually, being in education and being a teacher. Um, there's a lot of pressure on a teacher just to keep it going in the classroom. And, it doesn't matter how you're feeling. It doesn't matter if you have to go to the bathroom. It doesn't, there's just so many things out there. And the fact that hey, we're humans and we need support, whether we are the adult or the child. Um, if we could all just treat each other that way, I
I,
think the world would be a better place. We would have world.
well, burnout is a real
Oh, it
thing.
absolutely is. Yeah.
And if we don't take care of ourselves and learn to regulate ourselves and then co-regulate, even if that means with the other adults around, you know, I I tend to pay special attention to our staff members that are also parents of autistic and neurodivergent children as well. We leave the campus and we drive home and we're right back in it.
Mm-hmm.
Where that's not the case for everybody. But I think when it burn out for caregivers, especially if you're in the field and then you're also a caregiver, it can burn out is such a big thing. I think the spoon theory was something I learned for the first time. Also, when I was at the retreat, and wow, what to me that was powerful. I was like, how many spoons do I have today? I better put some things into place so that I know how to replenish my drawer because one of the things that I tell my team here is whatever we've got going on, we are human, but we also have to check it at the door when we go to co-regulate. We can't bring the fact that we got a flat tire or we woke up late, the alarm didn't go off, or things like that. The child that is needing co-regulation at that moment isn't going to fully be able to understand that you have all these other things going on. So when we're here, the focus is on we need to maintain that certain level of support for our students. And then it's okay to say, I need to take 5, and then you can decompress and kind of work through those moments, go take a walk, go sit in your car. I have benches in my office with pillows. I don't know if you can see it behind me. I let staff just lay down and turn off the lights for a little bit if they need to. But when we go into the classroom and we engage with our children, we're on. We're ready. We're ready to go so that they're getting the best care that they can. And we have a couple parents of autistic and neurodivergent learners that work here as well. And so that's really important consideration to take into account as well.
just so incredible to hear about all of the changes and to be so curious. I'm such a curious person. I love to learn, and So it's always so exciting to meet other people who are very curious. And obviously, I'm very passionate about PDA. So I love when someone so genuinely wants to learn more. And so it was really incredible for all of the Journeys team to get to meet the Polaris team and to experience people who are curious, but they also want to like continue on teaching others and advocating and educating and making an impact on all of these kids, and just so thankful. It's so incredible to get to hear the struggle and then how you kind of have brought it back. And I think we are going to have a second part with you.
Yes.
And in that second part, we're going to kind of dig into what all the things that you learned, what that actually looks like in a school setting, and how you actually implement all of these new things that you've learned, and what that looks like. And so it's very exciting to get to hear more about this. One of the biggest struggles that we come across for PDAers is learning education in school. So what an exciting change I can see coming in the future when there's so many people coming together to say, how can we do this different? What does it look like to do this different? And continuing to ask questions.
Yes, absolutely. We have a pretty stellar team over here at Polaris and Starlight. Starlight is implementing PDA strategies as well, and that's for our earliest learners. So they are getting that from their first experience in an educational setting. We are trying to implement a lot of different strategies for those earliest learners as well. And I'm very excited to share some of the success stories and have some data also to show like this can be extremely effective.
You just said
and
my favorite word.
I know I love data so much, and I've got some beautiful graphs.
If we don't have, I used to have this quote up on my monitor, but it had to do something. If we don't have numbers, if we can't we can't change. If we don't have the data on something, we can't implement change. So, we can be, and I'm a very black and white kind of person, and I just like to have, I can say it, but if I can show it, it's
Yes.
There's just so much more, I want to say validity in being able to show versus, hey, just trust me. Just trust me, it'll pay,
Yes, absolutely. I'm very excited to continue to learn and grow through Journeys with PDA, listening to you guys. I follow you guys on Facebook, and I look at all the podcasts and listen to them, and I just try to immerse myself as much as I can. It helps me as a professional be able to bring those, even if it's just like the way that you think about something.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you hear someone explain it and you're like, I never thought of it that way, or wow, that's a consideration to take into account here. That's a big variable, to what's going on. And so thank you guys for having that for families and also for us educators, BCBAs, or any other therapists that might be like, oh my goodness, I really want to help this child and they're wanting to learn so that they can be the best that they can for them. So thank you for that.
We definitely have an open door policy. Come on in. Well, thank you so much, Rachel. We will put Polaris's information in our episode description, as well as, I know we are going to get a part 2 out there, and we're very, very excited about that. And for those of you who are listening, if you would like more information about pathological demand avoidance, you can find our website at journeyswithpda.com. You can email us at journeyswithpda@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. Take care, everybody, and thank you so much.